Have a nice day. Bonjour is a French word meaning have a nice day. This is Teresita Garfin-Gabino, your mentor, your companion at your service, saying or greeting bonjour. Do you know what andragogy is? So our focus, our discussion for today's getting together on video. I hope you are there, smiling and thinking something of what will be happen today on air. So be with me in this special time. What time do we have now? It's siesta time after lunch, but I am still with you to talk about andragogy. So what is your idea about andragogy? What about pedagogy? Do you have any idea about pedagogy? I know that in mind you have meaning of pedagogy, and I'm sure that you are correct. What about andragogy? Is this your first time to hear the word andragogy? Yes, our focus of discussions, not only today, more discussions to be happen. So all about andragogy of learning, adult learning. So let us have now, at this moment, targets. So what are our targets? Okay, the first of which is compare and contrast pedagogy and andragogy. Now that you know already the differences or the difference between andragogy and pedagogy, we have to compare. Now that you know already the meaning of pedagogy and andragogy, we have to compare and contrast the two through using Venn diagram. So what is Venn diagram? Have you seen Venn diagram? Okay, so this is Venn diagram, one of the graphic organizers. So we will be using this, and this is for comparison and contrast. But what is to compare? What is comparison? Comparison is a noun meaning similarity. And then contrast is also a noun meaning the differences. What about compare? Compare is a verb to show the similarities, and contrast to show the differences. So compare and contrast andragogy and pedagogy. Okay, as to meaning, so there is already differences. And then what about the comparison? Okay, so that is the first objective, to compare and contrast andragogy and pedagogy. The second target is to know the assumptions of the learning designs of the adult. So what are the learning designs? What are your assumptions about the learning designs of the adult? So let's focus on the adults. So what are their learning designs? So what are their learning designs? What are your assumptions? What are our assumptions? So when I say assumptions, our statement, what can we say about the learning designs of the adults? So this can be through our observations. So we can write our assumptions about the learning designs of the adult through our what? Through our observations and interviews to our parents, to other adults. And then the third one is principle, the principle of andragogy and its applications. So there are only three objectives for today. I repeat, the comparison and contrast, to compare and contrast andragogy and pedagogy through Venn diagram. The second one is to write assumptions on the learning designs of the adults. And the third one is the principle of andragogy and its applications. Okay, so I know you have already the module. Look at the cover of the module. And then on the first page of the module, you have there the objectives and the brief introduction. In the brief introduction, you can get the comparison and contrast of andragogy and pedagogy. So you read it well. You can get facts there or answers there all about comparison and contrast and the assumptions of the learning designs. And you can also find there the principle of andragogy and its application. Okay, and then after the brief introduction, so we have the enumeration of the three objectives, yes, and the brief introduction, and then all about the differences between the deeper or the elaboration of the differences between andragogy and pedagogy. After the brief introduction, there is. Let's talk about your prior knowledge. So you can find there the questions. Describe pedagogy. What are your observations about the learning designs? So what can you say about the learning practices or the learning designs of the adults? So what can you say about their learning? Do they go to school at their age? No more. They stay at home, but they learn more. Learnings are seen from there. So you read, then it's your turn. Activity. You have to answer all the questions. I hope you did that. You did those activities and then you have passed all those. I started checking your paper and I enjoy reading your answers. Other answers are through observations. So you better read again the module because you will learn from those. Anyway, the focus is on the comparison and contrast. So at the middle of the Venn diagram, the similarities, and on both sides, the differences. I hope you can follow instructions. At the middle, you write what? The comparisons, and on both sides, the differences or the contrast. And then number 2, you have to write your assumptions. You have to write, I'm sure you have written the assumptions. Anyway, the activities are there. You just follow the instructions. I'm just making those clear to you. Focus is on the learning of the adult. So what can you say about the learning of the adult? Okay. So for our next activity, jot down the other or look for other andragogy principle. Write 2 andragogy principle. You can research on the different philosophy and then relate that to the learning of the adults. I repeat, you need to look for 2 more principles and then relate that to the learning of the adults, to the learning of the adults. You can write there your observations or your examples. Where will you write your assignment or your assigned task? In yellow paper. I want you to write those in yellow paper. Yellow paper, what are to be used? Yellow paper, that is our official paper. Okay, this is, I hope instructions are clear to you. Only the assigned task, two principles, research on the philosophy, and then relate that to the learnings of the adults. So what can you say about the learnings of the adults? So this is your companion, your mentor, Teresita Gigabino, signing off. Bonjour.